I searched my husband's name on the dark web. I wish I never had. I never believed that typing a name into a search bar could destroy my entire life. If someone had told me that one decision, made late at night, would turn my marriage into a nightmare, I would not have believed them. But I did it. And I cannot undo it. I am sharing this now because keeping it inside is slowly killing me. Because maybe someone listening will understand that sometimes the truth is more terrifying than the doubt. I met my husband more than 10 years ago. He was quiet, polite, and calm in a way that made people trust him instantly. Not charming in an obvious way, not attention-seeking, just stable, safe. That was what everyone said about him. And I agreed. We met through mutual friends. There was no rush, no dramatic beginning. We got closer slowly. Conversations became longer. Silences became comfortable. I trusted him without effort. That was the first mistake. He was responsible, organized. He worked hard, paid bills on time, never raised his voice. My family admired him. My friends told me I was lucky. I truly believed I had chosen well. We married after several years together. The wedding was simple, nothing extravagant. I remember looking at him that day and feeling something I thought was real love. Not excitement, not obsession, peace. For years, our life was predictable, stable, almost too quiet. We rarely argued. There was no jealousy, no dramatic conflict, no obvious red flags. If something felt slightly off, there was always a reasonable explanation. Until the small things started piling up. He would come home later than usual. He answered messages slowly. He took phone calls outside the room. He closed his laptop the moment I walked in. Nothing extreme. Nothing I could accuse him of. And every time I questioned myself, I told myself the same thing. You are imagining things. One night I woke up and realized he was not in bed. It was almost 3 a.m. I found him sitting in the living room, lights off, laptop open. When he saw me, he shut it immediately. He smiled and said he could not sleep, that he was catching up on work. I believed him. I always believed him. Over time, I noticed how little he spoke about his work. No names. No details. Just vague explanations. Technical words. Boring summaries that discouraged follow-up questions. I did not push. Trust, I thought, also meant not asking too much. Then something happened that I could not ignore. I received an email that was not meant for me. It arrived in an old shared account we used for household things. The subject line was just letters and numbers. I almost deleted it. I do not know why I opened it. The message made no sense. It was not clearly illegal, but it was not normal either. It looked coded, fragmented, like it was written for someone who already knew what it meant. I closed it feeling uneasy. When I asked him about it, his reaction was subtle, but wrong. He was not angry. He was tense. Too controlled. He told me it was nothing. Probably spam. Probably a mistake. That was the first time doubt became fear. I started noticing more. Watching more. Remembering conversations that now felt incomplete. Things he said that used to sound normal suddenly felt rehearsed. One night, while he slept, I did something I had never done before. I took his phone. My hands were shaking. I felt guilty even unlocking it. I expected to find messages, another woman, something simple I could understand. I found none of that. What I found was worse. Apps I did not recognize. Multiple browsers. Advanced privacy settings. Completely erased histories. Too clean. Too intentional. I said nothing. I put the phone back and lay awake all night staring at the ceiling. For weeks I lived with constant anxiety. I questioned my own instincts. I wondered if fear was creating something that was not real. I told myself I was becoming paranoid. Then I remembered something I had read long ago. About parts of the internet you do not access by accident. About places where curiosity alone is dangerous. The dark web. I had never been interested in it. I had never gone near it. It always felt distant, exaggerated, like something from documentaries and horror stories. But fear changes what feels reasonable. I researched how to access it. I read warnings. I hesitated for days. I told myself it was a mistake, that once you see something there, you cannot unsee it. Still, I continued. I did not know exactly what I was looking for. I was not searching for proof. I was searching for relief. I typed his full name. Slowly, carefully, with my heart pounding in my chest. I expected nothing. I hoped for nothing. And then something appeared. At first, I did not understand what I was seeing. Then I did. And in that moment, I knew my life was over. For a few seconds, I convinced myself I was misreading what I was seeing. I closed the page. My hands were shaking so badly that I almost dropped the mouse. I stood up from the chair as if the screen itself could hurt me. I walked through the house, trying to breathe normally. I told myself there had to be another explanation. Coincidences exist. Names repeat. The internet is full of lies. I sat down again. I opened it once more. This time, I paid attention. It was not just his name. It was the way it was written. Exactly the same format he used on official documents. Alongside it, there was an alias. At first, it meant nothing to me until I realized it was a combination of words he had used before in usernames and passwords. Not something generic. Not something random. Something personal. My chest tightened. I scrolled slowly. What I found was not explicit, and somehow that made it worse. Fragmented messages. References without explanations. Conversations that assumed shared knowledge. People talking about someone clean, stable, low risk. One comment stood out. Perfect cover. Normal life. No suspicion. I felt sick. The posts referenced dates, times, patterns. I checked my calendar. Trips he had taken. Nights he came home late. Times he said he was working overtime. The alignment was impossible to ignore. This was not proof in a legal sense, but it was proof to my body, to my instincts, to the part of me that already knew. My vision blurred. I shut the laptop and ran to the bathroom. I vomited until nothing was left. When I looked at myself in the mirror, I barely recognized the woman staring back. Pale. Empty. Terrified. That night, he slept next to me like always. Calm breathing. Peaceful. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to him, wondering how long I had been sleeping beside a stranger. Every memory started rewriting itself. Every smile. Every hug. Every moment of silence. The next day, I went through life like a ghost. I answered emails. I talked to coworkers. I smiled at the right moments. Inside, everything was collapsing. Paranoia took over. Every action of his felt loaded. Every movement suspicious. When he checked his phone, my heart raced. When he left the room, my stomach dropped. I tried to ask him something small, casual, about a trip from years ago. He answered immediately too quickly, like he had practiced the response. That confirmed what I feared. He would never tell me the truth. For days, I did not return to the dark web. I was afraid, not of what I might find, but of what I already had. Instead, I researched quietly. I looked up terms I had seen, concepts I did not understand. Some explanations were harmless. Others were deeply unsettling. Each answer created more questions. I barely slept. I stopped using certain devices. I felt watched even when I knew it made no sense. Fear does not need logic to survive. One evening, while searching old email accounts, I found something I had ignored years earlier. A forwarded message with no text. An empty attachment. The sender's name meant nothing to me back then. Now it did. It matched one of the aliases I had seen. That was the moment denial ended. I could not confront him without proof. I could not tell anyone without sounding insane. And I could not keep living under the same roof, pretending nothing was wrong. I needed distance. I told him I was going to stay with a friend for a few days to clear my head. He did not protest. He did not ask questions. He simply nodded and said okay. That indifference hurt almost as much as everything else. I packed lightly and left the house feeling guilty and relieved at the same time. That night, alone, I opened the dark web again. This time, I was not searching blindly. I found a reference that destroyed any remaining hope. A post describing routines identical to mine. A mention of a wife who never suspects. A casual sentence, written like a joke. I closed everything. I cried harder than I ever had before. Not just out of fear, but grief. Grief for the life I thought I had. For the man I thought I married. For the future I thought was safe. Nothing felt real anymore. That night I made a decision. I would not return to that house without answers. And I would not stay silent forever. I just did not know how yet. The days that followed felt unreal. I stayed at my friend's place, telling her I just needed space, pretending everything was normal while my mind replayed the same images over and over again. I barely slept. When I did, I dreamed of screens glowing in the dark and names written in places they did not belong. He texted me once. "Are you okay?" Just that. No concern. No urgency. I stared at the message for a long time before locking my phone and placing it face down on the table. I did not reply. I knew that any response would pull me back into something I was no longer strong enough to face. I needed clarity, but not from him. I spoke to someone neutral. A professional. I did not mention the dark web by name. I did not show screenshots. I simply described the fear, the inconsistencies, the realization that the person I trusted might be someone I did not know at all. When I finished, there was a moment of silence. Then they said something that settled deep inside me. You don't need absolute proof to protect yourself. Your safety comes first. Those words gave me permission to stop chasing certainty. I realized something important. I was never going to confront him and hear the truth. Not because he could not tell it, but because the truth, whatever it was, lived outside the version of himself he showed me. I began looking at the past with new eyes. Old trips, gaps in his schedule, periods of secrecy I had brushed off as stress or work. They no longer felt random. They formed a shape, one I did not want to complete. I decided I would not go back to our home alone. When I returned, it was only to collect my things. He was not there. I do not know if that was luck or intention, but I was grateful. The house looked exactly the same. Our photos were still on the walls. Our lives still arranged neatly, pretending nothing had changed. But the place felt empty. Not abandoned. Exposed. Every object felt like evidence of a life I no longer believed in. I packed what mattered and left the rest behind. As I closed the door, I did not feel relief. I felt grief. For the woman I had been. For the trust one gave so easily. I cut contact after that. Changed routines. Created distance. I did not announce anything publicly. I did not explain myself to everyone. I learned that not everyone deserves the full story, especially when the truth is heavy enough to collapse under its own weight. Weeks passed. One day, I heard through someone else that he was telling people I had left suddenly. That I was confused. That I was overwhelmed, that there was nothing more to it. I did not correct him. People who need to believe a simpler version will never accept the truth anyway. And then, something strange happened. I stopped feeling afraid. The constant tension in my body faded. The sharp instinct that screamed at me every night went quiet. I realized that whatever he was hiding, I was no longer close enough to be part of it. That distance saved me. I may never know the full truth. I may never see proof clear enough to point to and say this was it. But I know this. I saw enough to understand that staying would have destroyed me. Looking back now, I see the pattern clearly. I did not leave because I was dramatic. I did not leave because I imagined things. I left because my intuition was trying to protect me long before my mind caught up. Searching his name changed everything. It broke my illusion. It shattered my sense of safety. But it also gave me something I did not realize I was losing. Control over my own life. Sometimes the most terrifying discoveries are not about what you find, but about what you finally understand. I searched my husband's name on the dark web, and even though I wish I never had, I know that if I hadn't, I would still be sleeping next to someone I did not truly know. And that thought is far more terrifying than anything I saw on that screen.
I bet you can't hit the follow button and the heart before the video ends in 3, 2, 1.